Hey there, my name is Dr. Arash Rock, and today I'm going to be telling you about how to avoid junk words with AI writing tools. If you're watching this, I'm going to assume that you're frustrated with some of the limitations of AI writing tools and want to take control of your manuscripts so they actually get accepted for publication, and I'm going to tell you how. One big problem is that AI writing tools default to what I call junk words, and that's what this video is about. Why is a longer story, but basically large language models are trained on past academic writing like scientific journal articles where certain words are more common, so they tend to produce a kind of default style that's washed out, doesn't have really a strong writing voice, and that's because they tend to work probabilistically. They don't really know you, the style you're going for, your desired writing voice. They don't really know that. And authors, academic authors among them, tend to accept suggestions by default. And so what ends up happening, I think, is a kind of GIGO, or garbage in, garbage out. Junk words find their way into academic manuscripts, they get published eventually, maybe, and then writing tools will assume that this is the correct or most desired style by all academic writers, which isn't actually true. So what do you do as an academic writer to counter this? So academic writers must resist the limitations of AI writing tools and bring themselves back into the loop by involving themselves with word selection, which I just mean picking words with a more appropriate and accurate meaning over what I call junk words. And what are junk words? They are not your friend. They are disposable, meaning they aren't really that important. And when I'm an editor, I tend to remove or change them in a lot of academic writing. They have ambiguous meanings, meaning that they don't really have a meaning. And they sound very self-important, meaning they sound academic-y, but they don't actually have a very grounded meaning. And the reason they end up in your writing if you use AI writing tools is they're just really common. So what you end up with is kind of a disconnected stereotype of academic writing if you rely on AI writing tools. As an editor and writing coach, there are really three types of junk words I see a lot: verbs, nouns, and prepositions or prepositional phrases. In this video on YouTube, I'm going to talk about verbs, but if you want to see examples of all three types, go to indeliblevoice.com and sign up for the free membership tier. It's totally free and you'll get access to a lot of cool resources just like this one. So here are some examples of junk verbs, such as focus. I see focus a lot, and I think academics just use it habitually a little too much, and it's worked its way into the way that AI writing tools write. It tends to be vague and often unnecessary, and it can be used as a stand-in for another type of verb. For example, in this section, I will focus on material conditions. What are you really doing to material conditions? Are you analyzing material conditions? Are you collecting data on material conditions? All of these things might be better way to phrase that than focus. Resonate, I find, lacks specificity, particularly when it combines with ambiguous nouns and pronouns. And then finally, impact. Impact doesn't really show a direction or type of influence. It's just kind of like a generic word to show some change happens. So remember, junk words float. They live in a mid-level analytic space. They are supposed to connect the data that you are presenting with a big argument, but the problem is that AI writing tools don't really know in the sense that you know what these things are. So if you feed it writing, it's just going to know the writing that you are, giving it. It's not going to be aware of intellectual traditions, long-standing debates, and so on, that are the things that animate academic life and scholarship. The good news is that academic writers of all experience levels can take control of their manuscripts, starting by accepting suggestions carefully. You might not want to accept every change that Grammarly or ChatGPT or Microsoft Word's suggestion feature makes, because they may dilute your intended meaning, and you shouldn't just sort of accept everything, because you'll end up with sort of a washed out, extremely generic reading manuscript. Next, select more specific words wherever possible. Try to avoid these junk words, in other words, and they may be kind of stand-ins for better words. Relatedly, define and use terms for sound reasons. As an academic writer, you should come from a certain disciplinary tradition. Even if you're an interdisciplinary writer, you should be aware of what the disciplines you're drawing on are, and you may use certain methods and come from a certain intellectual tradition or other. All of these histories will define the terms and words that you use over others because they connect you with a scholarly history. And finally, use consistent terminology. If you refer to an aspect of, let's say, a scale as a dimension, keep using that word throughout. If that suddenly changes to another word halfway through the manuscript, that's going to be really confusing for the reader, and they're not going to be able to follow your argument. So thanks for watching, and if you want more tools, videos, and guides like this, just go to indeliblevoice.com or check out the rest of my YouTube channel at youtube.com/indeliblevoice.